Hi y'all, this is Lethea from Farm View Creators. Today we're going to work on the Harvest Blessings pallet sign from the Rust Covered Cottage by Christina. So here's how it looks. I'm just going to use a sticky board and get the small pieces stuck on there so that I can work on them more easily. And I'm going to start with Firelight and use a sponge dauber to apply that to the words. I like to use sponge daubers on the letters because it helps keep the paint from gooping up in the corners. And now I'm going to go in with Pinecone. All of these are paint Couture colors, and hit the center of the sunflower, the stem of the pumpkin or gourd, and the button. And now I'm going to hit it with pitch black on the crow. I accidentally painted his beak too, so I wiped that back. No big deal. And I just did one layer of pitch black on him because it was such good coverage. And now I'm going to go in with my favorite yellow, Spanish Sunrise, and get that sunflower. I love this muted yellow. And then I am going to hit my leaves with Basil. These are mineral acrylic paints. I'm going to do a second coat on my letters. And then hitting a second coat on the brown. And the sunflower. I like painting multiple colors because while I'm painting another one, the first can be drying. I'm adding some of that Spanish Sunrise to the beak of the crow. Then doing a second layer on the leaves. And now we're going to work on the backboard. I am going to go in with Folk Art Vintage White Matte, and I am brushing that on with the grain. I'm only going to do one layer, and I'm not really trying to be even. I am trying to cover the whole board, but if there are lighter spots, that's okay, because I want it to look older and vintage. So after I give it a good dry, I am going to sand it back some too. Hitting the word pieces, the word slats, giving all of that a really good dry. And then I'm going to use my small gator sander with a rough grit sandpaper and sand that back so that it looks more worn. Make sure you dust everything off before you continue. And I'm going to go in with my Debi's DIY dark wax and my larger brush. It's a stippling brush from Amazon. I keep them in a Ziploc baggie so they don't dry out. And I'm just going around the edges, then spreading some in the middle, and then buffing it out with my hands. I'm going to do the same with the word slats on the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to hit those accessory pieces as well. I've gotten where I like to do them still stuck to the sticky board as much as possible, just because I feel like it's faster. And now I'm going to go in with a little sponge brush and buff on some autumn sage around and through the leaves. It's the first time I've done that. I got better as I went. And now I'm going to paint the pumpkin or gourd. And I did decide to put all the pieces together while I painted them. And I am using Vintage Flare on that. And just painting across with the grain of the wood. They did want to wiggle on me. And I thought that was going well and a good idea. After I did the second coat, that first coat had dried a little bit and the pieces were sticking together, and I did have to sand them just a little bit on the edges to kind of get the goopy up. So I don't know if I would do that again, but it did work. Just maybe not as well as I had hoped it would. I'm hitting that second coat after I gave it a really good dry. Trying to make sure that I do have it fairly evenly painted. And you can see there where I'm having to kind of pull the pieces apart because they're stuck. And that top one did flip on me. Gonna give that a really good dry, and I'm gonna go in with another sponge and Deep Lake by Couture. And this is where I started getting in the groove of how to do this kind of distressing. And I love how it turns out, that kind of two-tone. It just differentiated between the pieces more and gave it more of a 3D look, in my opinion. So I'm going around all the pieces with that. And then I am going to use the end of a tiny paintbrush and just give some little accent dots here and there. There's no rhyme or reason. And then I'm going to do the same thing on some of the accessory pieces. I've gotten where I like using the end of a paintbrush better than a paint pen, just because I have more control with how much paint is on the tip of the brush. And I'm just randomly deciding where I want to put those. Then I'm going to give that a really good dry because I do not want those little dots to smear. And I'm going to use my favorite top coat, and you can see in my container that I am almost out. And any crafter knows if you're running out of something, that means you truly love it, because just like people with curly hair, we kind of collect products to try them out. But I do love the dead flat. It takes out all that shine and gives it some protection. And it doesn't take much. Just a thin coat does a lot. So a little goes a long way. Making sure I get all those pieces. And then I'm going to give that a really, really, really good dry before I start assembling. And now as I'm pulling off the pieces, I am kind of putting them near where they're going to end up, so I can kind of see how it's coming together and if I want to change anything real quickly. And I love the art glitter glue because I'm a messy crafter and it does not stick to my fingers and make them crusty later. It does clear, dry clear, and again, a little goes a long way. I've had that 2-ounce bottle for quite a while, and it's still probably a quarter full. So there are score lines on those backboard pieces that show you exactly where to lay them. Did have a little trouble getting my sunflower lined up perfectly. Probably should have figured that out before I put glue on it, but it's okay. Look how cute that little crow is. And then I decided I would put my glue on the backboard for the pumpkin gourd and then just kind of lay it down all together. And then I'm seeing where to put the stem, making sure it fits in there nicely, deciding how I want those leaves. And you can space those however you want. And then I'm gonna put the word slats on the top and the bottom. I wanted that little divot in the top to show and make it look more like a pallet, so I did pull them down a little bit. Then I kind of measured the width of the leaves, and I'm just using some twine to make a multi-layer messy little bow, and that is going to go under my button. And then getting that all together. I just wrapped it around my fingers and then used another piece to cinch it together. And now I have a longer piece that I folded about 4 times. There's about 8 layers there, and I twisted it, and I am putting some tape on the end so that I can feed it through those holes and getting it to the length that I want it to hang it. And then I did go back in later and stapled it with a staple gun. And there you can see the finished product, and there it is hanging on my door. I love it, and I hope you do too. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you.